Hello. I wanted to make a video about my favorite book of all time, Catcher in the Rye. And I first wanted to say uh, that I don't believe that much of the analysis that I've heard over the last many years, um, including my own for a long time, didn't quite nail the central meaning of Catcher in the Rye, in my opinion. And I've come to this conclusion because I've read it recently. Last year, I read it again, probably for the third time, fourth time. And I realized that my own analysis uh, was was not quite correct. And what I mean by that is a lot of the analysis I find of the Catcher in the Rye now uh, makes Holden Caulfield out to be a very particular person that I don't think is quite true. First of all, it makes him out to be an angry person. I don't see him as angry. I see him as a person who's looking for meaning in the world. He's not mad at the world. In fact, he's a gifted person. Um, he is very thoughtful. He's very kind. He went to go see an old teacher of his after getting kicked out of his third private high school before he left because he appreciated his teacher so much, but um, was struck by certain things that a young man such as Holden would be struck by, like the smell of his teacher or how slow he moved. Uh, it's not an angry person. It's a very empathetic person. It's a person filled with love. Um, Second of all, he left school because he was kicked out, and he left all his lacrosse equipment at the lacrosse game, um, and really was empty-handed. Was sort of uh, at the end of his career, as it were. He wasn't angry at the world. He wanted to find meaning. He wanted to find something that he could hold on to. Um, he left school uh, into the city because he didn't want to. He didn't want to stay at school anymore. He was already kicked out. He left school early because he wanted to leave, but he couldn't go home yet because he didn't want his parents to yell at him once again for being kicked out of yet another school. Um, and he's the type of student that my mother, who was an English teacher, would have described as brilliant but lazy. When he wrote a short story for his friend before he left school about a baseball glove, of course, it was probably a brilliant piece of writing, but his friend Stratler thought it was dumb. That's the kind of stuff that Holden didn't understand. He was very sensitive to the world. And of course, he mentions very early on that many of them saw their fellow classmate at a school, one of his schools, jump out of a window and kill himself. A kid who was bullied. Um, and that was a thing. When you're that age, when a person is that age, male or female, they're really compounded by so much stuff that happens that they've, remember, have only seen for the first time in many instances. He was filled with love. He loved his little sister Phoebe, who was 9, who was the coolest person he ever met. He describes going, sneaking into his house before his parents were home and before they knew that he was kicked out from yet another school. Uh, Sleeping and talking to him at the in the weirdest positions. At one point, Holden smokes a cigarette in Phoebe's room, and I don't think Holden hated his family. I think he loved his family. He loved his older brother, who was a screenwriter for uh, in Hollywood, and what he thought was one of the examples of thinking people were phony, which is definitely true. He did think people were phony, was that a girl who he might have wanted to hang out with, all she could talk about was his brother, because she was more bedazzled by Hollywood and all of its trappings than in being genuine. He thought he could be with someone genuine when he asked that older woman out for a drink, but it didn't work. Of course, she said, I could be old enough to be your mother. He was a young man searching for meaning. So The Catcher in the Rye is um, a story he overheard some kids singing about. There's a job in the world for catching children from the rye field, running in the rye field from falling over the cliff. That is The Catcher in the Rye. So at the end of the movie, when Holden is watching his sister play, um, sort of very near to needing some real help, he realized that he is the catcher in the rye, that he's looking after Phoebe. He is the catcher in the rye. He has meaning now. He has a place where he can put his love. The whole thing about the ducks in the pond, he only asked the taxi driver because he wanted to see if the taxi driver would even care. He was trying to have a genuine, neat conversation. The taxi driver was like, "What? Ducks? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, see? No one cares about what I care about." And, that's the kind of stuff when you're in a place like that, especially as a young person, you're very near to very many different pathways that you could go. You could go this way, this way, this way. And he starts off the novel by saying he's taking a rest. It's not that he's mentally ill. There's nothing mentally ill about being a curious, sensitive, young person filled with love and only wants the world to reflect that. Only wants a taxi driver to reflect that. And it's fight or flee. He wanted to flee. He didn't find any meaning until he realized that he was the catcher in the rye. He had meaning now. Like his parents looked after him and didn't get mad about Phoebe actually lied when Holden is in the room that she smoked a cigarette. Mother's like, "You shouldn't be doing that." She's like 9 years old. That's like a cool parent who's not gonna you know, she's constantly smoking, but I think she said she threw it out the window. The only reason I'm making this video is because for a long time, I just heard the same analysis of Holden being this angry man, young man about getting all these other things and doing wrong to himself and this lament for child. No, he wanted meaning. He wanted meaning. And the whole thing about the prostitute is that he wanted what he thought he wanted at the time, but didn't, and was promised that it would cost $5. All he wanted to do was, in the end, talk. And she left, came back with her person, and they said it was $10. That's what the whole thing was. And Holden stood his ground. Said no, it was $5 up until the end when the person who was with the young lady punched Holden in the stomach. And then he imagined meeting them down at the bottom of the stairs with a machine gun and I don't know. I just don't feel the analysis that I've heard for Catcher in the Rye. Find out for yourself. Let me know in the comments what you think. I just don't think, and I'm including myself in this, I saw him differently. I read it again last year, and it's just, Interesting. I don't know. And the whole thing about John Lennon getting shot, Mark Chapman thought the world was filled with phonies, including John Lennon, who might have been the greatest phony of all. But you know, ironically, he met John Lennon earlier that day and asked for his autograph. And John Lennon was not a phony at all. He actually gave, and he stopped and gave everyone who he used to walk a lot with him and Yoko a photo, a a signature. He wasn't phony at all. It wasn't connected to this book at all. Hey, you know what? A lot of people own this book. I don't know. I had to make the video. I love this book. Please check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. This is Justin, aka Uncle Krusty. Until next time, God bless. Be careful. Peace out.